Hello, everybody. Welcome to our session. So we're going to have a little game to start this off. Alexa, ask IP Summit quiz.
Welcome to the IP Lab quiz. I will ask you one question. Just say the number of the answer. Let's begin. Question 1. Is Amazon Echo a search strategy brands need to consider this year? 1. Number 2. Yes.
2.
The correct answer is 2. Yes. You got 1 out of 1 the correct. Thank you for playing. Jessie, I will hand it over to you.
All right. And for the second quiz of the day, we've got to fill in the blank. If you haven't had a chance to read the quote on the board, blank, what is Google scared of? Blank has actually made us very vulnerable because the future is nowhere close to what we earned over 12 years of hard work. We are having to start from scratch again. This was said by Amit Singhal of Google. Who can fill in the blank? Not voice search. Mobile. Mobile. It's absolutely mobile. I know it is the umpteenth year of mobile, and we've talked about mobile quite a bit. But where we are right now and what you heard on the main stage presentations yesterday is we're in the midst of a digital revolution. Things are changing very rapidly, and it is not just about the mobile device that you hold in your hand or maybe checking 80 to 100 times a day, but it's also the wearables. It's also all of the connected devices. It's voice search. It's Alexa. It's all of these things coming together and creating a massive disruption in the digital space. It's been so disruptive that Amit Singhal has since stepped down from his role at Google, and the VP of Artificial Intelligence Engineering stepped into the role as head of search. That's how different this atmosphere is and how Google even recognizes the change. It's changing how consumers are interacting with digital. It's changing what they expect from brands when they are interacting digitally. And for purposes of today's conversation, it is changing how users are searching specifically across this myriad of devices. So today we're going to take you through going beyond the search box and what search looks like in this new digital world. I'm Jessie Dearien. I'm Regional Director of Paid Search for the Midwest.
Hi, I'm Steve Beatty, Head of Owned Media. I run all of SEO and local for iProspect US.
And the three emerging trends in search that we're seeing as a result of the digital revolution are voice search, as you've already heard a little bit about, local search, and finally, app marketing.
So this is a great statistic. I know you guys heard this yesterday because Sam brought this up in his presentation. One interesting point about this is that number's from 2014. So I would be willing to gauge, even by the end of last year, that's probably closer to 60%. And by the end of this year, that's going to be closer to 70 to 80%. So that means 70 to 80% of people are going to be just using voice search on a daily basis. And what this doesn't even account for is Bing. It doesn't account for, I know Facebook's now going to launch like a personal assistant that you could potentially do voice search with. And it doesn't account this thing at all, because this is a new device where you use voice, you don't even use a mobile device to use it at all. So it just shows you how prolific this is going. And to Jessie's point, the disruption it's creating where everything is becoming a content layer, and it's not simply just a search result. But search results still are important. And this is a great one right here, which is ranking number 1 has changed. It's not just having that link on the page anymore. It's what kind of content experience are you creating? And you've heard throughout the summit from Mike, from Jeremy, from Sam, from Colin on the content marketing panel, how important that is that you create that great content experience. This is one that we worked on with Bank of America for years to get this right. Impact? Well, with desktop search results, especially for a voice search, where I know we've shared this with anybody in the audience that is a client, Google launched a 4-pack ad update, which basically pushed organic off of the page. With voice search, it's still relevant. Now, in desktop, are that many people using voice search? I would be willing to guess no, but some do. When you go to the mobile experience, that's a different story. Now you've got equal share of organic and page, which is great to have like a synergy in that strategy. And then in just strictly voice search, you not even type anything in. It's all organic content that you're engaging with audiences with. And you heard from Scott how important that's been as an initiative for Bank of America when he was talking on the content marketing panel yesterday. So what a surprise. Diageo, another one that was on that content marketing panel yesterday.
Ready for one of these right now. Yeah.
Talking about how important content is. this is a great example how to make gin and juice. And it was funny, I just had somebody from Diageo in here. They said that Snoop's potentially going to do some promotion with them later with this, so funny. For this voice search, they are coming up number one. Great for their brand recognition. They don't sell things online. People go to the stores offline. So great recognition for that. You're making a drink. If you're at home, you're just saying that in a voice search. You've got the brand, you got the drink, you're happy, you've made that connection with the content. So important. So I'm hoping I get better responses on this one because I've asked this first question all day long and I rarely get more than one hand up. Are you building a unique content query experience that you're engaging with users?
We're trying. Yeah.
Okay, trying. Is anybody in the next 6 to 12 months trying to do that? Yes, any hands? We'll try. Okay, we'll try. Gotcha. Well, and then that really leads into the second one. If you can't do the first, you're probably not doing the second, but are there consumers out there for your business that are putting those in right now and you're not there at all and you're losing that business? And then if you can answer one or two, then it's, are you building an architecture strategy around understanding how you can work with IT or the internal teams to ensure you're building that experience? Because if you looked at all the data we've just talked about in the last 5 minutes, that's how people are looking for stuff.
And the second trend that becomes really important with this proliferation of connected devices is local relevance. So we now know where individuals are when they are searching for things. And that gives us the opportunity to create a very relevant message if we're doing it right. While it's an added layer of complexity, it's a tremendous opportunity for brands. eMarketer projects by 2019, 141 billion local searches will take place in the US alone. And think about the power of a marketing strategy that can put the right message in front of the right person at the right time and also now in the right location.
This is a great example for AC Delco, which is part of GM. We actually had them in the room. We put this one and they almost jumped out of their seats. They were so happy about this. Relevancy of this is auto parts as just a non-brand search. Okay, that's great. But what we found was near me was what people started looking for. That behavior is changing. The local experience needed to change. It wasn't simply about that you had an auto parts page. It was proximity. Are you near where I can go to get something I need? And you can see from the result here at 161% with clicks to store the locator page by just doing that one simple action. Just shows you it doesn't take that much, but if you start thinking about how consumers can find you relevant to where they are and in proximity to where they are, it can have a huge impact on your business. So the next step in that is, okay, you understand the audience. What kind of content experience are you building? I found this to be a very interesting statistic from Nielsen, which is that 15% of consumers, if they see a coupon on a local page, they've already made a decision to go in there and buy. So this is a great example from Neiman Marcus, where they created a final day sale that you could win a $500 gift card if you go into the store, which creates that sense of urgency. Now, I'm going to shift this conversation a little bit because that's more of a transactional thing that you're looking for to bring somebody into the store to buy. This is where it makes the difference, as we've been talking about content throughout this presentation, which is, are you creating informational content that you can drive people to the store with, which is events like a fashion show, a shoe show, or a makeup show that you can engage with people. So maybe they're not buying in the first engagement with you, but maybe they do in the second because you created that relationship with them. And it's so important. And beyond that is really looking at the hyper-local target that you can create with paid to support this.
And from a paid marketing perspective, we have increased amounts of precision around where that user is at any given time. And we also have the ability, as many of you are aware, to pinpoint a location and draw a radius around it and say, we only want to bid on these keywords within this specific radius, so that you can create this hyper-local messaging and potentially drive users into whatever location. So the example we have on the board is Sunglass Hut. So for Sunglass Hut, we executed a national campaign with hyper-local advertising where we said, okay, if you were within 5 miles of a store, we're going to serve you messaging to drive you to our store locations. So the ad said, summer shades worth betting on, shop new arrivals in stores today. From a relatively limited investment, we were able to see in the markets where we ran this a 10% lift in brand interest year over year. This hyper-local targeting is so powerful because you are able to create that message in the right moment, in the right place, at scale, because of the tools and technologies that we have available to us today. So taking a step back from a local perspective, a gut check, as you're walking out of the room today, what we want you to be thinking about. What is your current local program? Are you creating local content that is relevant to each area? The third, and this is probably the trickiest one, are you giving users a great local experience on their mobile devices? So a stat came out from Google that if somebody clicks to go to your website and your page does not load in 4 seconds, you've lost them. They're gone. So they've indicated interest in your brand, you've gotten them so close, and then you lose them because your page doesn't load. As a consumer, you're probably thinking, well, yeah, I don't want to sit there and wait for a page to load for 10 seconds. I mean, 10 seconds, guys, come on, have some patience. But as an advertiser, you're thinking there is a ton of technology behind having an infrastructure and a website that is able to do that and deliver that relevant message quickly and a good, relevant experience. So something for you to be thinking about putting on your technology roadmap is having an M-site that is responsive and quick and able to get local information to those users. And finally, are you utilizing the hyperlocal paid advertising to create a real-time connection with these users? Moving on to apps. So apps has been a relatively recent phenomenon. When it first started, I think every brand raised their hand and said, oh, I have to have an app. We have to have an app out there. I think a lot of apps ultimately failed because there wasn't a strategy behind how and why they were creating and developing these apps. As you can see up on the slide, an estimated 200 billion apps are expected to be downloaded in 2017. That is a huge number. And the thing that is so great about an app is that when somebody opens that app, you are in an immersive brand experience. There is no other brand that is competing for attention of the user. You have a one-to-one connection. You have the ability to have that experience and create that loyalty with that user in that moment. And as a matter of fact, the average person spends around 30 hours a month in apps. And think about if you just have 1% of that share, but 1% of their of that time that you have that one-to-one connection where you are the brand that they're thinking about and considering and giving them that informational content to ultimately lead to that transactional behavior that you're ultimately wanting. Hilton Worldwide is an example of a brand that has done this very, very well. For any travelers out there, how many of you have the Hilton app? Fantastic. Do you love it? Exactly. So the thing that's so great about the Hilton app is they've thought of what can we do to create value that makes the user want to stay in this app. So you can book on the app, and it is transactional. But the real value of the app is digital check-in. And in some locations, a digital room key. So you don't even have to talk to the lady at the front desk when you get to the hotel. You just go straight up to your room. But they've also created meaningful connections around local content around the hotels. So you get weather, and you also have a direct link, as you can see on the screen on the right, to Uber. So Uber has a two-way connection where you just click, and it says, this person is at this location, and deep links into the Uber app to request a car service. So it gives users all of these options so that they're spending time here, bypassing the search engine altogether and spending time specifically within the Hilton app. A lot of brands, as I mentioned before, don't necessarily get this right. In fact, as many as 25% of app users open an app once and never return. And think of all the investment that you've put behind this. So not only the investment to develop the app itself, which has to be developed across multiple operating systems, but also the marketing that you've put behind getting those users to download those apps. And 25% of the time, they're never coming back to it. So it's a challenge that a lot of brands have, and you may be thinking, we don't really have a reason to have an app that is anything other than a transactional option. So something for you to be considering is the way Under Armour is approaching it. If you aren't familiar with the Map My Run app, what that is an app that you can open up, and it syncs and tracks all of your workouts. So you say, track my run. It follows you on your run, tells you your distance and your time. It's a very immersive social experience, so you can actually friend people on Facebook, say, ha, I ran farther than you this week, you know, if you're competitive like me. But it's a fitness experience, and Under Armour actually came in and sponsored it. So now when you open the Map My Run app, you see an Under Armour experience, and they create fitness challenges and do giveaways and things like that. So it's not transactional at any nature, but the relevance that Under Armour has, obviously with the Map My Run app, just creates that opportunity for ongoing consumer loyalty and general brand awareness that you couldn't get elsewhere.
So we've got millions and billions of people downloading apps. We've created an app. Or you've created an app and you've created a content experience that you're tying to your app. This, to me, is one of the most compelling statistics that I found, which is 29% of all app users retain apps if you create what's called a deep linking content strategy. And it was from a company called Quitra. They have over 3 million apps in their database that they've been tracking, so they have a pretty good set of data. And this is really what you have to do. If you want to make this work, this is the next step in retention of that app. And this is a personal experience that I had where I was reading a Yahoo article. I went into LinkedIn. I then shared it on my LinkedIn account. Somebody else that was in my connections, another iProspect employee, clicked on either this app or they went directly to this experience. Now, it seems like an easy thing to do, but so many brands will just simply have somebody that I took all that experience, shared it with a trusted person, and they wanted to see this content from this brand. They'll download the app and they take them right to the homepage. So now you've eliminated everything that I just built in me promoting them to somebody, a trusted peer in my network, and now you probably lost them, and it goes back to the 25% stat that Jessie was talking about. And all of this stuff is a somewhat strategy, and a lot of it's technical too, where you can build that into your mobile app experience to ensure that that first touch point, and that's one of the most critical ones you're going to have, is your brand sharing that content when somebody like myself shares it with somebody else beyond you even promoting it to me about that. And it's so important, and it's not just LinkedIn. This is Facebook, this is Twitter, this is Pinterest, this is any point that somebody's finding a piece of content and sharing it on their network and then ruining that experience, and then that's where you get to those numbers that apps fail. So, gut check here. I am hoping I get a better response there the whole day. I don't think we've had, more than 3 hands up for this. Do you have an app? Brands? Okay. Brands? Okay, good, 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 good. So then we can get to question 2. One follow-up to one that I'll ask for everybody else in the room that didn't raise their hand. Is it on the roadmap in the next 6 to 12 months for an app? No? 24 months? 36 months? Sometime in the near future? Well, for those that do have the app, I can't say this enough. It's that consumer daily experience. What are you creating? What kind of content are you engaging with people? Not just transactional. It's that informational one that can bridge to transaction. So important. Those are the apps that people retain. And it goes back to that experience I explained. If I find it on social and share it, that you allow me to share it with somebody else as well. And then the most critical piece probably is paid, social, and SEO. What are you doing to pull those levers to amplify that sharing of the app beyond just me sharing it so that you ensure that that experience is something that they can pass on to other people? So this is probably one of my favorite parts here. Alexa, tell me a joke.
Who was the roundest knight at King Arthur's table? Circumference.
Hey, all right, at least you guys laughed. My daughter loves this thing and just asks it jokes all day. This is such a telling statistic to me that speaker sales are the #1 leading channel for this thing. It's not an Internet of Things that people are buying it for. They're using it as a speaker. So now it actually acts as a content layer for you, a personal assistant. You use it for your music. You use it for your movies. Some of you in the room have probably seen some of these slides that iProspect has shared about that before. But that's it. Like, this is the bridge to that next step to a personal assistant. And it really is kind of changing that way that we look at how we integrate and how we use technology to answer questions and help solve problems for us. And to me, this goes back to that first slide that Jessie had that said, what is Google concerned about? It's not Google. I'd say it's Google, it's Bing, it's Facebook, it's Twitter. They should be deathly afraid of this thing because they're the only ones that have one out there right now. They have 40 million members on Prime. This thing's back ordered for like 2 months. And it's already taking the next step in creating that personal assistant and a content layer where there's not even search anymore. So, to wrap it all up here, voice search, content is king. And you've heard that throughout all the summit presentations. So true. Create that great content experience. And for those in the local space, make sure your data's right. I'll share one experience I had with you on a pitch we did a while back in the healthcare field. And we did an audit going into this thing. They had 60% of their data was wrong for hospitals, for people looking that up. Check your data. Last, certainly but not least, what's that value you're creating? That really ties back into content is king, that where is that informational value and transactional value that you can create for your customers. Thank you.